What up, guys? My name's Ryan. I'm making this video for you guys about my sensory deprivation experiment thing, McJiggerbob. So yeah, today I went for a float, Silver Essence Floating Spa in Williamsville, I think is where it was. Great place. I would suggest it to all of you. Before I even tell you my experience, I want to just say that it was probably one of the greatest things I've ever done for myself. One of the greatest experiences I think I'll have, or I've had. And probably the most eye-opening things that I got to experience. I've already made one video, but I kind of started to get lost in it and started to just kind of mumble on, and it was really long. This one probably be pretty long too, but it'll be a little bit more precise and to the point of everything. Even now I ramble. Anyways, for those of you who don't know what a sensory deprivation tank is, it is where you deprive yourself of all sensory input, which sounds weird and is way weirder to experience than it actually sounds. But basically, there's this light-proof box or room, depending on how you do it. Mine was a room or a little grotto cove. It was pretty cool. Where there's about 10 to 12 inches of water floating. Not floating, you're floating. In here, but it's mixed with about 800 pounds, 900 pounds of Epsom salts. And this place also has Dead Sea salt in the water as well. But all that salt in there makes the water super buoyant, so you can float a lot easier. And for a negative buoyant person as myself, it was amazing to actually be able to float and not have to worry about wading in the water or thinking. Because with a chest full of air, I'll sink to the bottom of any pool. But you get into this tank and you float. The water's kept at 95 or 98.5 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's kept at body temp. And the air above it is also kept at the same temperature. Now, I said it's a light-proof room or box or whatever you're doing it in, and that is the case. I've never been in a dark. I've never seen a black, ever. If you can go in your room, close your eyes, turn off all the lights at night, close off all light in the room, it was still darker than that. Now close your eyes, still darker than that. It was so dark. I was closing my eyes and opening them. There was no difference in it, and that was amazing. It was pretty different and new, very very new. Never seen that much dark, and you don't smell anything. The room doesn't smell like anything. It's rather odorless. The water doesn't have a scent. You don't taste anything. You're not eating or drinking while you're doing this. With the water being at that temperature at 98 degrees, you don't feel it. You don't feel the air above it. So that line where they meet, you don't feel either. Excuse me. Which is weird. You don't feel like you're floating in water. You just feel like you're floating. Sorry. So you don't feel like you're floating in water. You kind of feel like you're just floating in space, which is a pretty cool feeling as a space freak. It's probably as close as I'll ever come to feeling that. And so you don't feel anything, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything. You have earplugs in, but that's mainly just to keep the water out of your ears while you're floating, because your ears are usually underwater. You don't want to get swimmer's ear or something. But you're floating there, and your senses at first are like, okay, nothing's happening. Why don't I feel anything? You're in this tank. You're not in a swim trunks or anything. You're in your your birthday suit, and you don't feel clothing touching you. There's no breeze in there. You don't feel the wind touching you. You don't feel anything. You don't see anything, and you don't hear anything, except for one thing. Well, a couple things, but they're all in the same area. You can hear your heartbeat. You can hear your lungs fill and release oxygen. It is so quiet inside of you, for once, you can hear your eyelids close and open. I couldn't hear that then. I didn't even know they made a sound. What? This is like a whole new feeling, or lack of feeling. It was a little weird to get used to, because, my heart was racing. You would almost think I had a Time Lord's heart. It's for you Whovians. But, it was racing in excitement and a little bit of fear, not knowing what I was getting myself into. Anxious. Once I started to regulate my breathing and tried to meditate, I felt my heart rate naturalize and go back to a good flow, where it sounded like I only had one heart. And as I did that, you could hear all the little things your body does. Little things you really never could hear before. And I don't mean you can hear your heartbeat, like put your heart or your ear up against someone's chest and listen to their heartbeat. I could hear my heart pump. I could hear the blood. When I breathed in, I could hear my lungs absorb the oxygen like a sponge that they are. It was insane. Like, beyond insane. So, like I said, as I started to regulate my breathing and try to begin a meditative state, I started to hear this weird sound. Now, mind you, there's no sounds at all going on. It's quiet. But inside, I heard this. It was like a weird electronic sound. Like, my phone was off. I didn't know what it was, but it didn't distract me. I kind of kept with it and kept going. It kind of sounded like it was whizzing by me, and then I felt like I could focus on it. And as I centered my focus on this sound that I was hearing, it aligned. And that is kind of all where it started, and where I slowly started to become one with my consciousness. And I'd have to say, meeting it for the first time was pretty cool. And I like it. I like me inside. I didn't have any negativity come across. Maybe it just wasn't time for me to see it. Maybe I didn't have enough time in the tank. I do hope to find some. But as I floated there, not moving a muscle to keep my body relaxed, which is insane, because without the stress of gravity, it's so relaxing. I floated and let my body slip away. And it's kind of like a weird way to say it, 'cause it sounds like you're dying. But it wasn't a feeling. I didn't die. I'm here giving you this video right now. But it wasn't like, there was no sensation of ill meaning or death around me. But it was like the exact opposite. Like, little boy has a crush, runs up to her on the playground, grabs her hand, runs away with her to the pond nearby, and they skip stones, and he catches a frog and he shows it to her, sort of thing. Really pure, innocent, clean energy trying to take me and say, "Hey, let's do this. We don't have the constraints of all these senses holding us back." And if you think your sensory organs hold you back in this type of thing, I will tell you you're wrong. You're right. I don't know. They do hold you back, is what I'm trying to say. Your body's not trying to compute all this color around you, the greens, the reds, the blues, the yellows, the purples, the oranges. It's not processing that. You don't hear the fan in the background. There's no fan. There's nothing. There's nothing but your heartbeat and your breathing. And even that slowly just kind of fades out. After a while, I didn't even hear it anymore, to the point where I questioned if I was breathing, because it was so disconnecting. The first real big thing after the sound and me aligning to the sound and opening this doorway was a loss of sensation in my arms. Not like they went tingly numb, or you're at the hospital and you got a shot of morphine and you feel it take away your limbs. But it literally felt like I didn't have arms in an instant. Like they were gone. Next were my feet and legs. And that was weird because I felt as if I was just a torso and head floating there in space. All the while I'm in my deprivation chamber and I haven't moved an inch. As this all goes on, I slowly, and at the same point in time, lose my body in the sounds my body's making. And I was just a head. The noise came back, and I felt like I knew what to do with the noise now. I felt like I had to align again. I had to find where that noise was coming from inside me and pinpoint it. So I find it again, and that was like the final step of it all. I slipped away at that moment. I took the hand of my consciousness, which I feel I was fighting as I was losing my limbs, not letting it go in fear, because the feeling, the sensation was real and scary. Once I finally relaxed and I aligned to that sound that I was hearing, that mechanical sound, I started to think of all sorts of things. I wasn't looking through my eyes anymore. I was more so looking at my eyes, if that makes any sense, and it probably won't. But I was looking down at myself, not visually, but spiritually. And I don't mean that in religion, I mean that spiritually as in my consciousness, my spirit, my essence, what makes me me. And I floated way above where I was. And I couldn't see anything, but I could feel the presence of my body. That I knew it was there, that I could, that it was in that room, but I was no longer a part of it. And then I started to try and figure out what that sound I was hearing was. Why? Why was this electronic it was like a technological sound. I can't even pinpoint what it was that I was hearing. But why was I why did I feel I had to align to it? And then this whole flurry of thoughts came in, and it was like my conscience became burdened by power and technology, and how it was holding me back. But I still needed to find it to release, and how I'm like dependent on it. I mean, right here is my phone. I'm doing this, yeah, Doctor Who. I'm doing this on a webcam for YouTube/Facebook. And how I'm dependent, and how we're all dependent on it. And it's nothing I don't think we don't realize. But I don't think we realize how much it disconnects us from who we are as people, and where our minds should be opposed to where they're at. And then it took me into this I want to call it a trip, but I don't want you guys to think I was tripping. But this trip of negativity. This is not my own, but this is what we are. We're a human race. We're a species. We're an animal that was able to rise through the muck, that was able to take over a planet and make it home, make it ours, and basically rule the planet for our own needs. But I feel that technology has really taken those needs and changed them. But not only technology, then came in the power and greed and money, and how it really isn't anything, and we let it control us. And all these things felt like they were pulling my consciousness back down to where my body was. And I became afraid again, but not because of the release, but because this feeling was so real, so out of there, that I didn't want it to end. So I tried to just really forget about all these things that are going on around us, and all this negativity, like Syria, and all the talk you hear of Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan, and war of the Middle East, and Russia, and whatever. Because in the end, we're this great thing. We're all the same. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter if you're black, you're white, you're yellow, you're green, you're blue, you're pink. If you're gay or straight, if you're Russian or American or Middle Eastern or African. These are all just things. We're all the same, no matter what. We all have hearts. We all have lungs. We all have the same shit inside of us. Some of us just are different than the other ones. No one's the same. I'm not going to hate you because you have short hair, or you don't have a beard, or you're not the same as me. You don't like music. You don't like lacrosse. If you don't like those things, there's no reason to hate you. And then once I came to this realization, and it's not like like I said, we don't know this, but once I came to this grasp, it was like all those things that were holding on to my consciousness let go. And this insane rush of like just achieving height and going higher than I was regaining where I'd fallen from. And when you're in these sensory deprivation tanks, since you don't have your senses going crazy, computing and processing everything going around you, you can think. Like, think. You have a thought and it's almost completely processed in every aspect within the time it takes you to think it. At least that's how it was when I went in. I could think about these things and I could fully grasp the thought. Every aspect that I wanted to explore of this thought in like a second, it felt like. So after the feeling of all these burdens being let go, I felt like this rush of gaining height. And my mind just started to show me like everything with me that I needed to focus on. Like my brain was like, okay, you finally let go of all these things you're worried about. Everything going on in the world and all these things. Now let's think about the things that you really should worry about, that are really what I need, and I being my conscious. And it was like a flurry of thoughts, like all at once. Thoughts of school. You need to get everything onto school. You need to get everything right and make yourself a better person by learning and continuing education and filling my brain with stuff. You need to continue with music. You need to keep going with what you're passionate about, which for me is music. And you need to go and continue being a better person. You need to continue helping. You need to continue reaching out. And it was like a flurry of these emotions and these thoughts all in like a memory. Like it was using memories I've had to show like this is it. Like these are things you've done that you need to focus on either doing more of or getting better at. And it was insane. It was eye-opening. So I get out. I'm floating. I'm still not out yet. I'm floating there, and I feel like it's been like 45 minutes, and I'm in there for 90 minutes. I have an hour and a half float, and I'm like, wow, feel like I've been in here for 45 minutes. This is going on so long. I feel like there's so much happening, so much just being explored inside of me that like, how could I be achieving this in all this short period of time? 10 minutes later, it had to have been. The light turns on, just like boop, and I was staring right at it without even knowing, and it was blinding. It was rough, but once the light turns back on, I was like thrown back into me, and I jolted. I was terrified. The light came on so quickly, no warning of it, and I had arms again. I had legs and a body. My heartbeat was there. Like, I was literally cannoned back into my body in an instant. I get myself out. The next room you walk right into is a shower room to get all the salt water off of you and out of your hair, which was nice. They also they had like shampoo and body wash and conditioner there. You know, with these locks, you gotta condition. Nah, never mind. But yeah, like, so I go and take care of all that, and I I get out and I go to the desk, and I say to the guy, first thing I say, you got to do more than 90 minutes here. You got to book more than 90 minutes. Is there any way that I'd be able to get longer than 90 minutes? I felt centered. I felt cleansed. I felt like when I walked out of that room, was the first time I saw color. All these things were being reintroduced, and it was amazing. It was a weird feeling because like I walked out of the room and I could smell the soaps that were on the table like 30 feet away from me. I could smell the cologne that the guy was wearing in like total differentiation. Like I knew the distinct difference between the two. The colors were like beautiful. They were bright and vibrant, but it was the same room I just walked out of not too long ago. Nothing changed. Unless the guy like ran around spraying stuff to make me freak out, which would be pretty funny. But I said to him, I'm like, you gotta do more than 90 minutes. I need to do more than this. I got to. And he's like, he was very confused. I don't think he expected me to be so stoked about it coming out of this. And he's like, yeah, we could do more than 90 minutes. I told him, like, yeah, I want to do like 5 hours. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, like, I want to experience this. I don't want it to go away. I want to feel it all. And he goes, well, I gave you an extra 30 minutes in there. You were in there for 2 hours. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I felt like I was in there for 45 minutes. Like, I felt like it was too short. I needed more. So I exchanged some words with the guy. I told him how stoked I was. I told him how centered I felt and how tall I felt, how different I felt. And even the interaction I was having with the guy felt different. He wasn't acting any different, but our conversation, our communication felt different. It felt real. It felt I don't even know. Like I can't even think of a word to describe the actual feeling it was. And I had conversations during this night with other people, and it was the same. It was the conversations seemed real. They seemed positive. They flowed. They were energetic. And to think of it, almost every person that I came into contact with today, I felt that way toward. Which was nice. It was really nice. Anyways, all in all, if you're just trying to relax, I'd say do it. 'Cause it's relaxing. Beyond relaxing. It's so calming. Your muscles will thank you. I promise you. You're not using a single one while you float there. Minus to breathe. And it's so calming. If you're trying to find yourself, I would so suggest it. And I would say do it for like an hour and a half. Do it for 2 hours. Don't be scared. You have reason to be, but don't be. It will be amazing. You will see so much about yourself. I plan on going back. I plan on going back in at least a month's time. I don't know if I could afford to do it again so soon, but within a month I will try to do it at least for another 2 hours. Hopefully another 5, or for 5. That'd be choice. I would think that would be excellent. But yeah, that was my float experience. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me and ask me. But yeah, do it. Go float. Go become one with like who you are. Go learn about yourself. Like, go find out who you are. Like, go find out what you want. Go find out what you should be doing. Find out what makes you happy. If you're having problems, if you're not like the happiest person, like, I mean, that's the reason I'm doing this. Like, better myself. And that's like all that can come of it. If you even have like the moment where you would come across an inner demon, which I am totally expecting to happen, and I am fully encouraging to happen. I would love to meet the dark side of myself, and I would love for that experience to conquer. I would love to try and end that in me, whatever it is. I mean, like, we all have our demons. Like, I'm no exception. You're no exception. Why not figure out what it is? So, I ended up making this half hour long. I'm sorry. Go check it out. Go look up shit on YouTube. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm totally down to answer. So, thanks, guys. Adios.